The following is a special focus presentation.
We are now in the Garanbandal era. Eyewitnesses of Garanbandal were so inspired that it changed the course of their lives. What you are about to see could change the course of your life as well.
On a summer evening in June 1961, in the village of Garanbandal, northern Spain, these four girls reported seeing a vision of an angel. During the following days, the angel came to them several times and said that the Virgin Mary would visit them. She had an important message and warnings for the world. These visions continued for 4 years. The girls learnt that if mankind did not change its ways and lead a holier life, then a dreadful chastisement would be unleashed. At the end of this winding road is the village of San Sebastian of Garanbandal. In 1961, this was an isolated community of 80 homes and 300 inhabitants, who for centuries had led an unchanging existence. Laboring long hours in the fields and enduring harsh winters with few comforts. The parish priest, Father Valentin Marichalar, traveled on horseback from the neighboring town of Corcio on Sundays to hear confessions and to offer Holy Mass. The origins of the village are obscure. One thing that has marked it out has been its unwavering devotion to the Catholic faith. During the Spanish Civil War, priests on the run from revolutionary forces were sheltered by the villagers, and the Eucharist was carefully concealed in an abandoned house to avoid any possible desecration. Since medieval times, every evening at sunset, a bell has been rung to remind people to stop work and pray for the souls in purgatory. For the last 500 years, the Rosary and Litany devotions to the Virgin have been prayed every evening in this church of San Sebastian, the patron of the village. At 8:30 in the evening of Sunday, June the 18th, 1961, four friends were playing on this rocky path at the southern end of the village. They were Mari Cruz Gonzalez, aged 11, and three 12-year-old girls, Jacinta Gonzalez, Conchita Gonzalez, and Mari Loli Mazon. None of the girls were related, although three shared the same surname. Out of a clear evening sky, they heard a sound like thunder. Suddenly, Conchita fell on her knees, her head tilted back, startling the other three children. Thinking that she was ill, they were about to run to get her mother when the same thing happened to them. They saw a brilliant angel There was a sign beneath him, but the children were not able to read the words that were written on it. Over the next 12 days, the angel appeared to them several times. Then on July the 1st, he spoke to them for the first time, saying that he was Michael the Archangel, and that on the following day, Sunday, the Blessed Virgin would appear to them as Our Lady of Carmel, and would tell them the meaning of the words that were written on the sign. News spread quickly. Many priests were among the visitors who joined the villagers to witness the great event. The Blessed Virgin appeared. Michael the Archangel was on one side of her, and another angel who looked just like him was on the other side. Over the angel on the right, the children described what they thought was an eye, the eye of God. Our Lady explained to the girls the message written on the sign. It was her message for the world.
We must make many sacrifices, perform much penance, and visit the Blessed Sacrament frequently. But first, we must lead good lives. If we do not, a chastisement will befall us. The cup is already filling up, and if we do not change, a very great chastisement will come upon all humanity.
They spoke openly with the Heavenly Mother. This is a recording of Conchita praying the Rosary during an apparition, slowly, as she had taught the girls to do. Over the next 4 years, she appeared more than 2,000 times, at all hours of the day and night, often appearing several times in quick succession. Sometimes she carried the infant Jesus in her arms. The girls' visions were preceded by 3 interior calls, which they described as 3 joys. On the 3rd call, they would run to meet our Blessed Mother and, crashing to their knees on the jagged rocks, would enter into a rapture. Their heads were thrown back, the pupils of their eyes dilated, and their faces serene. They were insensitive to pinpricks, burns, physical contact, or bright spotlights shone into their eyes. After one apparition, the back of Jacinta's legs were covered in pinpricks inflicted by a doctor. Pepe Diaz was the local builder and was among those who helped to protect the children.
I saw a doctor trying to lift Conchita off the ground during one of the apparitions. All he could do was to lift her onto her toes. She was already standing. Others tried, but no one could lift them. But the girls in ecstasy would lift each other up to kiss the Virgin, but we couldn't.
As the apparitions continued, new phenomena began to occur.
When the girls were in ecstasy, they were different. Sometimes they would walk so fast over the ground, we just couldn't keep up with them. They were too fast. They would go one way, then suddenly another. Often we were out of breath. Sometimes they were going so fast, we thought they were going to crash into the walls of the houses. We were perspiring so much. The girls were so cool. They showed no signs of perspiring. Often we were with the girls when they would just crash onto their knees on the rocky path. You could hear their knees striking the rocks, but they were never hurt. The girls also began to make spectacular falls in their ecstasy.
Sometimes they would fall straight backwards, stiff as a board, without using their hands to cushion the fall. And they would levitate.
And this day I saw Lolly in the floor, completely in the floor, and suddenly went up. And her father told me, take your stick and pass it through her. I took the stick and passed it. And she put her, when she was like this, she put her skirts down. I passed it through, and there was nothing. There was air down her. She was like this and with a face that I couldn't explain. She was beautiful.
Father de la Riva witnessed the girls' levitations and many other ecstasies. Above the village there's a bluff with 9 pine trees. Many of the apparitions took place in this area. One day I saw the children come off the hill, looking upwards like this, walking backwards. They came towards us through those bushes full of thorns, running like they were flying, backwards, like they had wings on their feet. They moved so fast that one couldn't see that their feet were not touching the ground, and they never fell. They passed us here, turned round, and walked off towards the church.
I saw them coming back from the pines, and nothing, and they never fall down, never. And they were going back, like this, and they walked, and they ran, they were there, and nothing happened to them, never.
People would often place holy objects, such as rosaries, scapulars, medals, and wedding rings on a table. The girls would then offer these to Our Lady for her to kiss. Afterwards, the girls would always return the object to their rightful owners, even though they had no way of knowing to whom each object had belonged. The Virgin told the children, "Through my kiss on these objects, my son will perform miracles, wonders, and prodigies." This promise has been fulfilled in numerous reported spiritual and physical cures from around the world. To confirm the supernatural character of the events, St. Michael told Conchita that on a certain date, the invisible communion he'd been giving the girls would become visible on her tongue.
She fell to her knees here, prayed, and put out her tongue to receive communion. Her tongue remained bare. There was nothing there. I was only inches away from her face, then suddenly a host appeared on her tongue, just like you receive in communion. It was a beautiful white host. And suddenly the host started swelling up. It was moving. It was swelling. I can't remember now. It must have been 2 or 3 minutes it remained on her tongue. Then she closed her mouth and swallowed the host. The large crowd was packed around and pushing and shoving. Everyone wanted to see Conchita. Everybody wanted to take photographs. In their urgency to see, they ripped off my shirt. I was pushed onto the ground. I nearly lost my trousers. I managed to keep them up. The people were so excited. They were saying, "Miracle! Miracle!"
Of all the cameras there, only an 8mm movie camera caught the miracle on film.
And joining us now, an eyewitness to the apparitions in Garanbandal, Maria Sirocco. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
I know you're not feeling well, so we're going to, just bear with us during this interview.
Well, actually, I don't feel too bad right now. It's
Okay.
my voice that's the
Okay.
problem.
All right, you need to cough, go right ahead. Maria, you also run the St. Michael's Garabandal Center for Our Lady of Carmel in Pasadena, California.
That's right.
Because this is really, for you, this is a lifelong devotion, something that you feel that you've devoted your whole life to.
This
Spreading
is my
this
life.
message. It is your life.
It is my life. It's a second chance that God gave me because I spent too many years ignoring him. And Garabandal has brought the light of God into my life. And hopefully it can extend out to the others that I try to contact.
Right.
And when I give slide lectures, that they too will receive the light and the grace to fulfill the message that our Blessed Mother came to this earth to give us.
Now, in our first interview, we talked about the background of Garabandal and how it began and some of the messages. It's been some 42 years since Garabandal occurred. Let's talk a little bit about what's been happening with the 4 children who were involved in this, the 4 children who say they saw the Blessed Mother and heard from her. Give us a rundown of what they're doing these days.
First of all 4 of them are married. The youngest, Mary Cruz, lives in Spain. She's a grandmother already.
Wow.
The other 3 live in the United States. Conchita, the oldest, lives in New York, and she too is a grandmother. Loli lives in Massachusetts, and Jacinta lives in California. And their children are not married as yet. But Loli right now is very, very ill, terminally ill.
With cancer or?
No.
No?
For the past 15, 16 years, she's had lupus.
Oh.
And then on the exact day of our Blessed Mother's first apparition, on July 2nd, she was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis in the final stages.
Oh, wow. Well, people would hear that and think, well, wait a minute, these kids were especially blessed to see the Blessed Mother. Why would that occur? Why would she have to go through this kind of suffering? Couldn't the Blessed Mother just reach down and say, look, let's ask Jesus to heal you?
Well, our Blessed Mother didn't promise that they were going to live a charmed life. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, she told Loli that out of the 4, she would have one trial after another for the rest of her life.
Why?
And this had to be offered for the sanctification of the priests. And I've known this girl since she was 16 years old, since I went there the first time on June 18, 1965, when St. Michael appeared with Our Lady's final message. And I've known her very, very well. And I can tell you, her life would give the worst soap opera on television a run for their money, because she has had one trial after another.
And how does she deal with those? How does she shoulder all those crosses?
It's hard. In other words, there are also times when she says everything looks very dark. There's no light. Mm-hmm. Her faith is on the line.
So she's tempted to get angry as well, like everybody does.
I'm sure of that. And depressed. And depressed. She not only has physical suffering, but she has mental anguish, terrible mental anguish. And thanks be to God, she has a wonderful husband who supports her in every way, and very strong in the faith. But no, I've seen the suffering. Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me tell you something, Mary Lou.
Okay.
When there's so much to tell you about what has happened in this girl's life, she's walking parallel, her suffering, like the church. You know, the Blessed Mother told these 4 girls in the beginning, the day would come when they would contradict each other and even deny that they had seen her. And they couldn't understand why. Why? When we're seeing you. Mm-hmm. And our Blessed Mother said, yes, it's going to be because you're going to pass through the same confusion as the church. What confusion? At that time, there was no confusion. Nobody understood these words. In 1961, when she said this, everything just looked wonderful. Lots of good, strong, holy vocations. But Our Lady singled out Loli and said, that she would have to offer all her sufferings for the sanctification of the priests.
And when you talk about this confusion, obviously there were people who denied, who didn't believe that she had actually seen the Blessed Mother, and that kind of stimulates that confusion even in their minds as well, because they don't get a lot of support then.
They first of all, they themselves doubt that they've seen the Blessed Mother, all
Why?
4 of them.
Yeah.
Why? Because they have no memory recollection.
Right, okay.
Sometimes things are clearer than others,
Right.
and they see things. But other times, it's very dark. And they have felt as though, I know Loli did, as though she was deceiving the whole world.
Right. How old were they when it happened?
12.
Each one was, no, one was,
Mary Cruz was 11.
okay.
But the point is this, and this is what the audience has to understand. The Blessed Mother came to Garabandal. Yes, she came as a mother, loving, sweet, tender, to show her concern for her children who had taken the wrong road. But she came as a teacher to remind us about the truth of our faith, because she knew that down the road, our faith was going to be on the line and even lose our faith. And because of that, now we start to live worse than the pagans. No, our Blessed Mother knew that, and she tried to prepare us. And she prepared us by allowing the children to lose their, it's as if a mystical veil
Right.
was pulled down, a shade.
She used them as an example as
As
well.
an example, because the way they were, not that they're not good people, they are very exemplary. Not that they did anything bad, but they were going to be confused like the church. It's the church that she's pointing
Right.
to. And you know,
Well, we've all been given something.
you know
right.
the crisis that's in the church now with the priesthood.
Well, we've all been given something special, like they were given something special, and sometimes you forget it. You move on with the rest of your life, and then you get involved in things you shouldn't, and you forget the most important message from God. Now, Conchita, we have a clip, a phenomenal clip from a television show, a live television show from Ireland that was, I guess, taped 20 years ago. Maybe it was live. It's on tape now, but it was aired live 20 years ago in Ireland, and Conchita was on it. And it's very rare because they don't give interviews, still to this day, correct?
They don't like to at all.
Well,
Not
this
at
is
all.
a very old tape, so we are going to put subtitles on this. But
really have to persist in getting them to open up and talk.
Okay, well, we're going to roll that for the audience right
Okay.
now. We're going to put subtitles on it so that they can understand her more clearly. But I think it's really interesting. I think they'll really like that. Let's look at that now.
Okay.
Can I start first of all by asking you, you were all about 13 years of age when the apparition started. What did the Blessed Mother look like?
She looked beautiful. Her beauty gives us a lot of confidence the sooner we see her.
And did she wear the same sort of clothes that we are normally accustomed to?
She had white dress and blue cape, but the dress is long.
Yes. What was the reaction of your parents at the time when you first started to talk about the apparitions?
The first day they don't believe, but after see us in ecstasies they believe. The parents.
And am I right in understanding, Conchita, that wherever the 4 of you were in Garabandal, in separate houses or out playing separately and so on, you got the call at the same time?
Yes. We had some kind of feelings inside. We call llamadas. But we are in different places. We are the calls in the same time.
And what was that feeling that you got?
We never can explain the feelings, but the feelings make us go to the place where the Blessed Mother wanted to see us, or she wanted we see her.
And that was a place called the Pines, is that right?
In different places. The first time we see her is the place is called La Calleja. There's sometimes in the Pines, in different places, in the front of the chair too.
And how many apparitions were there altogether during the two or 3 years?
I don't remember, but a lot of times.
A lot of times?
Yes.
Yes. Now, what did you talk about to her?
We talk about, the first time we talk about a lot of things, but when we see her, it gives us a lot of confidence. People give us messages, we give it to her. We say the Rosary with her too.
And was there an angel with her at the beginning, or every time, or
The
what?
first time we had apparition is one angel. The first time we see her, the angel coming with her, then she coming all alone.
Now, the last apparition, she gave you a message, a full message.
Yes.
Yes, and she gave you this in Spanish.
Yes.
Would you say the message for me in Spanish?
Yes, I had writing here in English. I did want to write in English, but I think it's the more important thing, and all the apparitions in Garanbandal. Do you like to read in English?
I would like to hear it in Spanish first.
Yes?
Yes.
I want to read in Spanish, but making me so nervous to talk in the cameras. Yeah. The message, the angel gave it to us, but the Blessed Mother tell him, give it to us. Como no se ha cumplido y no se ha hecho conocer al mundo mi mensaje el 18 de octubre, os diré que este es el último. Antes la copa se estaba llenando, ahora está rebosando. Los sacerdotes, obispos y cardenales van muchos por el camino de la perdición y con ellos llevan a muchas más almas. A la Eucaristía cada vez se le da menos importancia. Debéis evitar la ira de Dios sobre vosotros con vuestros esfuerzos. Si le pedís perdón con vuestras almas sinceras, Él os perdonará. Yo, vuestra Madre, por intercesión del ángel San Miguel, os quiero decir que os enmendéis. Ya estáis en los últimos avisos. Os quiero mucho y no quiero vuestra condenación. Pedidnos sinceramente y nosotros lo daremos. Debéis sacrificaros más, pensad en la pasión de Jesús. This is the last message the Blessed Mother gave it to us.
Yes. Now, the meaning of that, broadly speaking, in shortened form, that message is what in English?
That she said the sacrifice, the penance. She said with the more and more we don't have no respect to the Holy Eucharist. And then he said, pray for the priest, bishops, and cardinals, but they gone to the wrong way and they bring a lot of soul with them. And they say to think a lot in the Passion of Jesus. And ask to Jesus forgiveness with sincere heart, but he want to forgive us.
Now, what will the miracle eventually be?
The Blessed Mother say one miracle gonna happen, but only I can say 8 days before.
You will say what 8 days before?
The day of the miracle.
You will actually nominate the day?
Yes.
Now, is it true that it will be in April or May?
I say it gonna happen between April and June, or between the months.
Yes. And you will announce that 8 days
8 days before.
Why cannot you tell us now?
But she say 8 days before. I don't know why.
That is what the Blessed Mother said?
Yes.
Yes. Did the other 3 girls get this message as well?
No, they don't know about the miracle. They don't know about the day of the miracle.
No, but you do.
Yes, I do.
Is it soon?
Yes.
It is soon.
Yes.
Is it years or months?
I can say only 8 days before.
Yes. And will there be a warning before you give the message, or is the warning at about the same time?
No, the Blessed Mother say before the miracle is one warning is coming to the whole world. There's something gonna happen in the whole world. They gonna know, everybody gonna know it's coming from God.
Yes. No matter where we are.
Yes. Yeah, it don't have nothing to do with Garanbandal, but it's something gonna happen, like prepare ourselves to the miracle, to see the miracle.
Yes. Do you recall, Conchita, at any stage what your feelings were during that trance?
What is the feelings I feel? When I see her, it's like she takes us from the air. You know, she takes us from here. We feel so happy to see her. Like we don't ever want to see her, leave her.
Yes.
It's beautiful feelings, but it's very hard to explain the feelings to be with her.
Your feelings about the world now, Conchita, do you find the world a depressing place to be, or what?
I feel like the place to be, the world to me is the place to prepare ourselves to go to heaven.
And how do you do that?
I try to do when I can sometimes, listen the pulpit, do what the Blessed Mother says.
And are your family religious? Your own daughters and son?
Yeah, I think they are very religious. Yeah, they like to go to church, to say the Rosary.
Mm-hmm. Do your neighbors know who you are?
No, nobody knows.
Nobody?
Nobody. My pastors don't know, and nobody in my church.
And why do you not want more publicity for the cause of Garabandal?
But for the cause of Garanbandal, I don't, you know, I love to everybody know about the message, but I don't want anybody to know it's me. I don't know why. Maybe for my children, they go to school, I don't want to.
Do the children know?
No, today they asked me, why you going to be on TV? I said, I don't know.
You said you don't know?
Yeah.
And where are they?
They are outside.
They are here with you?
Yes.
The three older ones are here
Yes.
with you? Yes. And well, they know after this, surely.
I don't know, I tell them, pray for me.
and if they don't know that you are one of the ones who's involved in Garabandal, but they do know about Garabandal, they have heard about it, surely.
I don't know, but in my house we never talk about Garabandal. I had a holy hour in my house. We never talk about Garabandal there. And around me, we never talk about that. For this, maybe they never hear it.
And the other three girls are in America. Do you make any contact with the other three girls?
I talked to one, Jacinta, in California, but we never talk about Garabandal either.
This is extraordinary that you're not trying to forget about it, but you are trying to leave it to one side in your life.
This happened now. Before, without. After the apparitions finished, to me, I think it's nothing is true. I think after that, I better don't talk about. It's a big difference between without before. Before, without, we love to talk about the apparitions.
Yes.
Now it's hard to do it.
Yes. Now, you also speak about the chastisement. Do you understand that word?
Yes.
Yes. When is that due to happen?
The Blessed Mother said, we don't change, the chastisement is coming, but it's not sure it's coming. But if we change, she don't sing to us.
Yes, yes. Conchita, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, Maria, when I look at that, what sticks out in my mind the most is when she says, that was 20 years ago, I don't know what's happened since, that her children knew nothing about what happened to her when she was young. The people in her area, in her church, knew nothing about it. That shows
she still says her children didn't know anything.
I mean, there's a humility in that as well,
Yeah.
but I guess there's also a protective factor. But as the host asked, you would wonder, don't you want to go out to the streets and scream this message because you know of some of the horrible things that might occur in the world and that it's important that you put your own desires and your fears aside for that? How do you respond to that? Because that's what I'd be wondering.
No, because she really doesn't have any recollection. I mean, if you're a person with amnesia, I mean, all the people in the world aren't going to convince you to do something if you can't remember it.
Right.
They know what the people saw. They remember what they said, but they don't remember what they saw.
And she remembered bits and pieces. For example, she said that part of the message was that the priests would lead souls astray, basically.
That wasn't her message. That was the Blessed Mother's
right,
message.
the Blessed Mother's message to her.
On June the 18th, 1965, at about 11:30 at night, Conchita received the last message. It was filmed by Spanish television.
As my message of October the 18th has not been complied with and has not been made much known to the world, I am advising you that this is the last one. Before, the cup was filling up. Now it is flowing over. Many cardinals, bishops, and priests are on the road to perdition and are taking many souls with them. Less and less importance is being given to the Eucharist. You should turn the wrath of God away from yourselves by your efforts. If you ask His forgiveness with sincere hearts, He will pardon you. I, your mother, through the intercession of Saint Michael the Archangel, ask you to amend your lives. You are now receiving the last warnings. I love you very much and do not want your condemnation. Pray to us with sincerity, and we will grant your requests. You should make more sacrifices. Think about the passion of Jesus.
That's a very powerful message. So
Right.
she remembered some important things.
Yeah. Well, she knows the message, all right. They know the message. All four of them know the message. There's no problem with that. It's what they're not remembering is seeing the Blessed Mother. If they describe her, they're only describing her the way they described her at that time, because they can't remember how she looked. If you would have asked them today, there is no way that they remember. What they're remembering is what they said at the time.
Well, so you said even today her children do not know, 20 years after that interview,
Well, last time I
about...
talked to her was, I met her at Fatima, and no, just a couple of years ago.
Well, what about the other kids? Do their families know about this, or their community?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
They've chosen to speak about it.
They know.
What's
They
the
all know.
difference? What's the difference? Why?
Well, Conchita, like you said before, she didn't want her children to be influenced in any way by this, and wanted to protect them from the public eye as well. And she was a lot more visible than the other three children because she made herself visible. And she was well known in the area. Although, I will tell you one thing, she never uses the name Conchita.
Right.
So she keeps that hidden. I remember when she moved out of one area in New York into this place where she's living now, which is by the seashore. And it's a very, very tiny community. I'm not going to say where. But anyhow, she went to the church, and the pastor there didn't know who she was. And she had this beautiful picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe, full size, that she had in her other house, but she had no room in this house to put it anywhere. And so when she went to this church, she thought, wow, that wall over there looks like it would be nice if it were hanging there. And she asked the priest if he would like to have it. And he said, yeah, not knowing who she was.
Right.
And she invited him to come over for a Spanish meal. She was going to cook. So he went over to her house and everything, and she cooked a nice meal. And they got along great. And next thing you know, he contacts her because he's having a crowd over in the rectory and nobody to prepare a meal. And he wanted to know if she would come and prepare this meal. And so she would be going over to the rectory and doing this and going over there more and more. He never knew who she was.
But you know what?
Her pastor.
I know. But what I noticed as well, though, in her small interview there, even though she doesn't remember a lot about it, she's obviously a holy woman. She said she has a holy hour in her home. Her children go to church and they enjoy it. So she has passed on that message to her family, which is very critical, you know, living the message yourself as well as your family.
She used to have a holy hour to pray for priests in her home where she lived before, but not in this place. Now she goes somewhere for a holy hour. And that parish that she was at in the first place, she couldn't get it in the church. Priest wouldn't allow it. And they used to come over, I forget if it was first Friday of the month. Not first Friday, every Friday of the month. But on the first Friday, she said, no, you don't come here, you go to the church and make your holy hour over there. And if anyone ever walked through the door and decided that they would like to ask her a question about the apparitions, she'd show them the door. Please leave.
Please leave.
You come here to pray. You don't come here to talk about the apparitions.
Because that's the message, to pray. She was also given a veil that belonged to Padre Pio?
The veil, the first veil, excuse me, The first veil that covered the face of Padre Pio when he was waked, when he was in his coffin, was given to her, yes. It was given because of Padre Pio had this message for her, and the idea was when he died, she was in a state of shock like the rest of the world, because they thought he was going to be alive to see the big miracle.
Right.
But Our Lady said he would see the miracle from wherever he was at. And so would the reigning Pope would see the miracle from wherever he was at. So would Padre Pio. Those are the exact words. And when Padre Pio died, everybody said, wow, that's the end of Garabandal. Miracle didn't happen. Well, when the priest sent word for her to meet him at Lourdes, because he had a message from Padre Pio, who was now already dead, he presented her with this veil. And first thing Conchita wanted to know, how come he died when the Blessed Mother told me he was going to see the miracle? And he said he did see the miracle before he died. And there was no way that they would have sent the veil to Conchita, given her this veil, if they thought she was a fake or a fraud.
Right. Let's talk now about what is occurring in the world today and how it relates to what took place in Garabandal 42 years ago as we sit here in 2003. It was a message about the church and some of the problems within the church. It was a message about the world. And now here we are standing at the possible brink of war. And how does that relate? How does what's happening in our world today, let's talk about the war part first, relate to the message of Garabandal?
Well, for it to relate to Garabandal, we have to go back further. We have to go back to La Salette, Lourdes, and Fatima. Fatima, our Blessed Mother, laid everything on the line for us. She told us step by step everything that was going to happen if we didn't do what she came to this earth to tell us to do, to help us. Pray the Rosary every day, the first Saturdays of the month, for the conversion of Russia. If we didn't change our lives, pray for poor sinners who had no one to pray for them, who were falling into hell. Well, if we didn't do all these things, what did she say? A worse and more terrible war would come. It did come. World War II, 30 million people dead. We didn't listen to her at all. But what I want to say is, it's not over, because she said if we didn't do all these things, there would be terrible persecutions of the church. The good would be martyred, and the Holy Father would have much to suffer, and certain nations would be annihilated. Is that what we're waiting for?
Are we talking about the U.S.? Do we know specifics?
Certain nations. She didn't name those nations. But we know how it's going to end, because she said, in the end, not in the middle, not 3/4 of the way, in the end, Russia will be converted, and my Immaculate Heart will triumph, and there will be a certain amount of peace granted to the world. We're walking a perilous path right now. Right now.
Are you scared to death about the possibility of us engaging in a war?
Terrible.
You're terrified? Does that terrify you?
Terrible. But I know it's still, even though it's so terrifying, I still have a lot of hope. A lot of hope.
Hope in what?
In being able to reach enough of people to tell them about this so that they can turn their lives around. Let me tell you, Mary Lou, there have been a lot of people who were away from the church that have come back to the church.
You know, you mentioned that so many people have come back to their faith.
They've left the life of sin,
right,
and they've turned their lives around and come back to God.
But unfortunately, with this pedophile situation, people who would never have thought of leaving their faith, even those who have not been personally traumatized by sexual abuse by a priest or a nun, those people are so angry at the way they perceive the church has handled it that they're leaving and they're falling out and they're not giving money like they used to. What do you say to them? Because that's a very serious situation too. They feel wounded to a degree.
This is my newspaper, The Vigil, The Message of Garabandal. And it's a recent issue. And I deal with
Those are the 4 children there.
Those are the 4
Okay.
children. And I deal with that question that you've just asked me. How do you deal with it? First of all, you have to remember the church is run by human beings. That's number one. Maybe we should say number one should be what the Blessed Mother said at Garabandal. In her final message, many cardinals, many bishops, and many priests are on the path of perdition and are taking many souls with them. Nobody understood this. How could the Blessed Mother say such a thing? I mean, for me personally, it was hard to believe.
Sure.
But as time went on, I understood that what she said, she never lies. Those words were very prophetic indeed. But first of all, we have to understand who established the church. It was established by Jesus Christ himself when he was here on earth. He gave us the church, the sacraments, especially the sacrament of reconciliation, and the Eucharist, his own body and blood. That's number one. You have to remember that. Now, these priests have a very unique vocation because they are the only ones that can give us the body and blood of Christ during the holy sacrifice of the Mass. They're the only ones. Nobody else can do that. Not even a deacon. Nobody. No extraordinary minister. Nobody. They're the only ones that can consecrate. Even angels can't consecrate. You know, Michael the Archangel brought communion to the children often in Garabandal.
So the attack against them is going to be greater.
Greater because the devil knows that because the priest is the only one that can give us the body and blood of Christ, he has to destroy the priesthood. When I was in Czechoslovakia, I hate to think about this, I almost hate to repeat it, but when I was in Czechoslovakia, I remember someone telling me, I'm not going to say who, that there had been a mystic years ago that had said the devil had one aim, and that was to line the walls of hell with the vestments of the priest. Because without the priest, there is no blessed sacrament. And Jesus said, unless you eat my body and drink my blood, you cannot have life in you. So, first of all, the priesthood is what the devil is focusing in on here. And our job is to correct the problem that the world is facing. And how do we do it? We don't do it by throwing sticks and stones at the priests. And I feel as though right now what we need to do is we need to pray for the priests more than ever. This is what the Blessed Mother told Loli. So what do you tell these people? Stop throwing sticks and stones and get down on your knees in front of the Blessed Sacrament and pray. Pray for holy priests.
Because sometimes in a crisis like this, the laity forget that the church is the laity as well, and the priests are our leaders, but we have to reach down and have some compassion, and instead of dumping the church and saying, well, I'm not going there anymore, it's destroyed my faith, you have to support the essence of the church that was based on Jesus Christ.
Where are you going to go that you're going to get the
And that's what the
sacraments?
devil would like to see too.
Absolutely.
That's the domino effect. Get the priest first, then the kids and the adults and the rest of the laity.
Absolutely. Look.
But it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people to do that because they've revered these people and they've probably looked at them in a godlike fashion, which they shouldn't have done.
I did.
To begin with, you know.
I did.
You know.
To me, that's the way
that
I was
in their
raised.
humanity they can be sinful as well, but you know God can heal all those sins and all those wounds.
During the time of the apparitions, and it's on film too, Loli cried a lot. Tears would be coming down.
Sure.
A lot. And her mother would want to know, and her father wanted to know, why were you crying for the priest? Her mother didn't want to hear it. She thought it was blasphemy.
Right.
But yet her mother did pray for the priest.
Well, a lot of
In
people
fact, I
didn't
have
want to
a
hear that it was
wonderful-
going
I have
on
a
when these people
wonderful
were
tape.
complaining.
Yes, but Loli knew what was coming.
Mm-hmm.
She was told what was coming. That's the reason why she's suffering. And she asked Our Lady, even though the doctors haven't given her much time to live, she asked the Blessed Mother at the time of the apparitions, am I going to die soon? And Our Lady said, no, you have to remain on earth to suffer for the priests. That's what she's suffering for.
That was a heavy cross.
A heavy cross.
Yeah.
She can't see it clearly at times, but her greatest cross is not just physical, it's mental anguish, doubts about the faith, feeling abandoned by God. I mean, she's actually gone through, I've seen it, I'm a witness to this. I've seen her go through these experiences that great saints have gone through. But I want to get back to the apparitions once again. I want to talk about Father Lewis, the young priest who died of joy, because we have to relate that to the crisis in the church today.
The night of August the 8th, 1961, while observing the girls in ecstasy, Father Luis cried out 4 times, "Miracle, miracle, miracle, miracle." Maximina Gonzalez is Conchita's aunt and a confidant of the visionary. She remembered Father Andrew very well.
What a beautiful Mass he said the last day he was in the village. After this Mass, Marie Cruz came into the church in ecstasy. A large crowd followed her. They were very noisy. He was trying to listen to her conversation. He was kneeling next to her, in front of the statue of Our Lady of the Rosary. Later that night, they climbed to the pines, and Father followed. All of a sudden, Father put his arms in the air and shouted, "Miracle, miracle, miracle, miracle." Later, I asked my niece Conchita what had happened, and she said, all of the time they were seeing the vision, they were seeing Father Andreu. Normally, they saw no one. They did not see any miracle. They only saw the Blessed Mother. Our Lady told the girls that Father Andreu saw the future miracle. Later, he left the village with friends.
On the drive home that night and into the next morning, he told the driver and other friends with him, "What a beautiful present the Virgin has given me. Oh, what a sweet and lovely mother we have in heaven. Today is the happiest day in my life." Without ever being ill, he made a coughing sound, he lowered his head and died. The explanation arrived at was that he had died of intense joy.
But what I want to say is, why was he singled out? Why did the Blessed Mother single out this priest?
The death of my brother was also a kind of mystery for me, because he was not really sick. The sickness they may have is that anybody else they may have, sometimes flu or things like that. And then his death was a surprise for everybody. I asked some of doctors, friends of mine, and then they say, I don't know. We don't know. Well, of course, heart arrest, that's what they decided. Everybody dies of that, from that. And my brother, of course, he was a heart arrest, that's the death. But really, it was really impressive, not just for me, but for everybody, because he was speaking normally and plenty of joy, and then in a matter of 1 minute, he passed away. I believe that my brother was really happy at the moment of his death.
His last words were, "This is the happiest day of my life."
There's going to be a warning. We don't know when.
Worldwide warning.
We don't know when.
Loli's the only one that knows the year, regardless of where you are. You can't go and hide in the forest, in the desert, in the mountains, or in a cave, or under the ground. There is no place that you are going to hide. The warning is going to be a very terrifying event. It's going to happen in the sky. It's going to be something that every person on this earth will experience at the same moment, at the same time. I want to talk about Father Lewis, the young priest who died of joy, because we have to relate that to the crisis in the church today. Father Lewis, who was a young 38-year-old Jesuit priest, on his third visit to Garanbandal, he saw the Blessed Mother. He witnessed the great miracle, or at least part of it. When she came to live with me in 1972, I said, "You're not coming here as a visionary, you're coming as a daughter."
Right.
The messages of Garanbandal are prophetic messages for the world, given to us to prepare us for their fulfillment. With this two-part special, Garanbandal, Then and Now, you too can witness the entire miraculous experience. See the actual footage from Garanbandal, including the visionaries in never-before-seen ecstasy. This astounding video set is yours for just $35. Hear the entire story of Garanbandal from an actual eyewitness, Maria Sirocco,
Nothing is a coincidence. That should say something to people.
who was so inspired by Garanbandal that it changed the entire course of her life. She explains why the messages are even more relevant and urgent today, given the current state of the world and the church. This video also includes rare actual footage of the miracles of Garanbandal. You can own the entire collection, Garanbandal, Now and Then, and Eyewitness Garanbandal for just $50. Remember, these videos have been produced for you, so you can judge for yourself the importance and relevance for your life and for the world.
To order a copy of this show or any other Focus production, call 504-840-9898 or 985-635-0333 or visit us on the web at FocusTVOnline.com. Focus would like to thank you for your kind donations. Your gifts and generosity make an immediate difference in the lives of many through these Focus programs. It's your contributions, however small, that make this show possible.
Previously on Focus.
On a summer evening in June 1961, in the village of Garanbandal, northern Spain, 4 girls reported seeing a vision of an angel. The angel came to them several times and said that the Virgin Mary would visit them. The Blessed Virgin appeared. She had an important message and warnings for the world. If mankind did not change its ways and lead a holier life, then a dreadful chastisement would be unleashed. On June the 18th, 1965, at about 11:30 at night, Conchita received the last message. It was filmed by Spanish television. 2 of the many priests to witness the events of Garanbandal were Father Luis Maria Andreu, a 38-year-old Jesuit professor of theology from Una in Spain, and his brother, Father Ramon.
I want to talk about Father Lewis, the young priest who died of joy, because we have to relate that to the crisis in the church today. Father Lewis, who was a young 38-year-old Jesuit priest, on his third visit to Garanbandal, he saw the Blessed Mother. He witnessed the great miracle, or at least part of it, that we're waiting for. And he died on his way home of total joy, total joy. Our Blessed Mother had told him, "You will soon be with me." His last words were, "This is the happiest day of my life. What a sweet and lovely mother we have in heaven." You know his body is going to be found incorrupt on the day after the miracle. He is now in Loyola in a tomb, in there with another priest.
Where?
In Loyola, Spain.
Okay.
But what I want to say is, why was he singled out? Why did the Blessed Mother single out this priest? She loved it when all the priests came there. I mean, she'd give them girls messages for them.
The first day I went up to the mountains, my brother Luis with me. For him was, I think, the second time, but for me was the first. At one moment, Loli and Jacinta, in the little area of the pines, they enter in ecstasies. I was looking at them, transformed the face, very beautified, and as a proof, I ask inside of me, if that is true, please, that one of the girls come out of the ecstasies. And at that very moment, one of the two came out of the ecstasies. And the other one said, "Why did you go out?" And ask him. And then we didn't hear the answer of the vision. But then I start again asking another proof. If that is true, that this girl enter again in the ecstasies, automatically enter in the ecstasies. So I turned to my brother Luis and I said, "Luis, be careful with what you are thinking, because here the transmission of the things and thoughts is immediately done." And that was my first experience of things that impressed me, of course, in this area. The first time I went up. After that, I stayed there for weeks, several weeks, and I saw a lot of many other things, but I have not much time now to explain them. They are written in the books.
Our Lady showed special care and attention to every priest who came to the village. The only one to see the future miracle was a priest. The girls were told by Our Lady, "A priest is more important than an angel." The children were told if they meet a priest and an angel, they were to greet the priest first. The children were given the ability to recognize priests who came to the village in ordinary clothing. Nearly every time the Virgin appeared to them, the children were told to pray for holy priests. They had the ability to know when a visiting priest was in serious sin, and this was so that they would make more sacrifices for them. Marie Lolly was told by our Blessed Mother that she would suffer much in her life, and to offer the suffering to God as a sacrifice for priests.
The thing I think is more important in my life, to pray for holy priests. I don't know.
With regard to apparitions, you feel that's the most important thing in your life, to pray for priests?
Yes.
The idea is people have to remember now that the priests that we have are no different than those 12 apostles.
Right.
They're human beings, but God has a way of choosing human beings and to do his best work. And not only that, but he doesn't take it from me. I'm going to be 75 in about 2 weeks.
Right.
And take it from me, from experience. God has a way of going to the trash bucket and picking out the people he wants to use.
Because it also shows that, as we're going to see, the church will not collapse. Despite this, God will overcome, and his message will overcome.
No.
Let's talk.
Jesus said, not even the gates of hell will prevail against the church.
Right.
I will be with you all days, even unto the end of the world.
Because you can never fully destroy what God started.
And the Blessed Mother did tell Loli, in a certain moment, a certain time, It's going to look like the church is finished. Priests are going to have a very hard time to talk about holy and divine things. And it's going to be very difficult for them to offer.
But it's the
Holy
beginning
Mass.
of a renewal.
She
sometimes.
called it communism.
Right.
That's what she called it. So is it a continuation of Fatima? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because there is a union between those two sites.
Absolutely.
There's going to be a warning. We don't know when.
Worldwide warning.
We don't know when.
Loli's the only one that knows the year, not the date.
Do we know what kind of warning?
Year. Yes, we know a lot about it.
What is it?
The warning is going to be a very terrifying event. It's going to happen in the sky. It's going to be something that every person on this earth will experience at the same moment, at the same time, regardless of where you are. You can't go and hide in the forest, in the desert, in the mountains, or in a cave, or under the ground. There is no place that you are going to hide.
4 great supernatural events have been prophesied at Garabandal. The first will be a worldwide warning from God to be seen and then felt interiorly by everyone on earth. At that moment, we will see the wrong we have done and the good we have failed to do. The warning will be sent to purify us and to correct the conscience of the world. Everyone will recognize it as coming from God. It will prepare us for a great miracle. The visionary Conchita knows the date and will announce it 8 days in advance. It'll be on the feast of a martyred saint of the Eucharist, not on a feast day of Our Lady, and will coincide with an important event in the church.
You know, I have had really the impression of the warning. When I try to explain the warning of Conchita, Conchita says the warning, you prefer to be dead than to see the warning. And during this time, I prefer maybe like to be dead, you know. And I think the great problem of the warning for all people, subitly, all the people in the world will see it can lose God, lose the sense of the life, you know. Alors, it's a problem of humanity.
We are going to see the state of our soul the way God sees it. That's going to be pretty frightening. But also, it'll be something that we're going to see in the sky. It's going to be like the collision of 2 stars that do not fall down.
And then there will be a miracle.
Only Conchita knows that date. She will announce it 8 days before it happens. It's going to happen in Garabandal, at the place of the pine, not in the place of the pine grove, up over it.
All those either in the village or on the surrounding mountainside will see the miracle by looking up over the 9 pine trees on the hill above the village. The sick who are present will be cured. The non-believers will believe.
As long as you can see that area from wherever you are, along the mountainside, in the village, you will be a witness to the miracle.
Do you know what that's going to be, though?
The miracle? No, I do not know what it's going to be, but I know the effect. The effect is that the unbelievers will believe and will be converted, and the sick will be cured. So she will announce the date 8 days before, but the warning must happen before that 8-day announcement. Let's not get confused.
Sure.
It can't happen 5 minutes before the miracle.
Right.
It must happen before the announcement. So from the time the miracle happens, not the miracle, the warning happens, to the time of the announcement, it could be as much as 12 months. Garabandal apparitions are zoomed in on 2 important things, the priesthood and the Eucharist.
En el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Amén. El Señor esté con vosotros. Hermanos, comencemos nuestra celebración mismo. La noche que iba a ser.
Everything seems to focus on the Eucharist and the priesthood. the miracle to come on a Thursday, the day that is consecrated to the Holy Eucharist, the day our Lord instituted the priesthood.
Because they go together, hand in glove. And what kind of a miracle is it going to be? We don't know. But following the miracle, there'll be a perpetual sign that will be left in Garanbandal in memory of it. Something supernatural, never before seen upon the earth, can be filmed, photographed, and televised, and not touched. And the miracle also can be filmed, photographed, and televised.
The body of Father Andrea, who witnessed the miracle, will be found incorrupt the day after the miracle. The third major event will be a permanent, visible sign which will remain as a reminder of the miracle at the Pines until the end of time. The fourth major event is conditional. If mankind does not fulfill the Blessed Mother's messages, then God will send a chastisement on the world. Conchita, Mariloli, and Jacinta were shown the chastisement. It happened over 2 nights.
They started screaming. Their hands were raised in the air, saying, "Please, don't let it come. Don't let it come. Take the children first. Give the people time to confess." A visiting Franciscan priest, Father Felix Elizalde, said, "Let us pray 10 Hail Marys to the Virgin of Sorrows." The minute we started praying, the screaming stopped, and the girls were saying, "Let it not come." We were frightened that night. We didn't sleep. We stayed at the Pines that night. All 300 of us villagers went to confession, all except 2 men.
After these 3 major events, if the world hasn't changed, then the chastisement.
What about the permanent sign, though?
What about it?
What is that going to be?
Well, there are a lot of comparisons. Conchita herself has compared it with a column of smoke never before seen upon the earth because you can't touch it. It's also been compared to a rainbow. That's something you can film but you can't touch. So we just have no idea. But it's something never before seen upon the earth.
Right.
Now, as far as the chastisement goes, that's why I'm here. This is why I have a lot of hope, that if we get enough people to live the message and make it known, and everyone has the responsibility to do their part. And Our Lady did promise that if we did our part, she would reward everyone. But if we don't change, this chastisement that comes is more terrible than we could possibly imagine. It won't have anything to do with wars or revolutions or the hardness of men's hearts. It'll come directly from the hand of God.
Well, you know, when you listen to what you're saying, obviously people would say, well, after all those wake-up calls, you'd have to be a fool not to believe and not to turn your life over to God if you hadn't already done that. Because ultimately that message, it's a very scary message when you hear it like this. But the message of Garanbandal is not meant to be scary. It's meant to be a message of hope, one of love, is it not?
For me, that's what it is.
I mean, obviously we need to be scared into action sometimes because of, you know, our inaction and our lack of faith. But God really is trying to do this because of his love for us, to turn mankind back to God, to right our lives.
He sent the Blessed Mother to this earth to give us the message of faith, hope, and love, and conversion. What was this message? We have to make a lot of sacrifices. We have to do a lot of penance. We must make many visits to the Blessed Sacrament. But first of all, we must be very good. The chalice is getting full. And if we do not change, a very great chastisement will come upon all humanity. And all the girls say, let all Catholics confess before the chastisement, and let all others meaning non-Catholics, repent of their sins.
But ultimately, if people are afraid of what they're hearing from you, turn that fear into action. Start praying, start opening your hearts, and let God guide you at that point. And then, you know, then you'll be able to walk.
It has to be done on an individual basis. It really does. The movement has to be a movement of the heart.
Right.
Right now.
Where he can touch you.
That's right. And you know what? All we have to do is say, Mother, what do you want from me? Please help me. I want to be good. I want to do the will of God. Please help me. And Jesus is not on the cross waiting to hit us over the head with a big stick. All he wants us to do is say, Lord, forgive me. I'm sorry for anything I ever did to offend you. I know it's my sins that nailed you to the cross. That's another thing. We no longer recognize the evilness of sin. We don't recognize it anymore. And this is another thing that the worldwide warning is going to do. It's going to correct the conscience of the world. How long will it last? I don't know, but it comes to prepare us. It's a purification to prepare us for the great miracle, which will be the greatest miracle that God has ever performed for mankind.
So that warning is ultimately a gift of grace to us.
Yeah, a tremendous,
another gift of grace that we've been given.
Gift of love, and all God's waiting for is for us to say, Lord, help me to do your will. Help me to do your will. There's nothing we can give God.
Right.
Nothing.
Just ourselves and our love.
The only thing we can give God is to renounce our own free will. The gift that he gave us in life. Renounce your free will and say, Jesus, I want to do only your will. And you know, Jesus said something at Garanbandal. Anyone who's disposed to do my will know what my will is.
Who did he say that to?
He said that to Conchita in a locution.
In a locution.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the status of Garanbandal in the eyes of the church?
Right now, it's no different than it was the last time I was here. The status is that they just say that it's natural. They're not calling it supernatural. Because if they call it supernatural, that means they approve. And they can't approve until the prophecies, the major prophecies, take place. But what has happened since I was here last was Bishop Del Val, the bishop who appears in the video, Garanbandal, the eyewitnesses, passed away.
The bishop of the diocese, Bishop John de Valgaro, witnessed 3 of the apparitions when he was still a young priest, and served briefly on the diocesan commission set up to investigate these events. After he became bishop, he set up a new investigation in 1988.
I needed to do a personal investigation because the responsibility demands this of oneself. So I had to do something about it, because I thought it was something serious that had happened in Garanbandal. It seemed to me that because it was so serious, I had to find out for myself exactly what happened in Garanbandal. The results were brought to the Holy See, to the Sacred Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. That is where you have to take things like this. So that is where the documents are. They were given to Cardinal Ratzinger.
¿Es el mensaje de Garanbandal teológicamente correcto y de acuerdo con las enseñanzas católicas?
Yo creo que sí, que es teológicamente correcto.
The messages are theologically correct, yes. But one of the details bothers me, like the one that many bishops and cardinals are walking the path of perdition. It seems to me to be a bit severe. The messages do not say anything that is against the doctrine of the Church. The apparitions have never been condemned. The previous bishops did not admit that the apparitions were supernatural, but to condemn them, no. That word had never been used. For sure, I consider the messages important because they are important in the area where it is similar to Lourdes and Fatima. It is important for us Christians to live what the messages of the Blessed Mother are saying. If we consider that she could have said this, but I'm not saying that she did, since this would be admitting that the apparitions are true, and I cannot do that, because the Church has not yet said so. The Church is the one that has the last word.
The bishop removed all the restrictions on visits to the village that previous bishops had imposed on priests.
I don't remember exactly the date. It was done step by step. I told the pastor to start removing the restrictions, and then it was just announced publicly. It was about 6 years before I retired in September 1991.
And guess when he died, was buried, his wake, on the anniversary of the last apparition, November 13, this past November 13. Nothing is a coincidence. That should say something to people.
Yeah.
In 1966, Conchita was called to the Vatican by Cardinal Ottaviani. At that time, she met Pope Paul VI, who, during his conversation with her, said, "Conchita, I bless you, and with me the whole Church blesses you." This cannot be interpreted as an approval of Garabandal, but his statement is not without significance.
There is no doubt in my mind everything prophesied here will happen. The warning, the miracle, and the permanent sign. The Virgin Mary was here. It was supernatural.
One day the church bell tolled. Conchita said to her mother, "Pope John is dead. Our Lady told me now there will be only 3 more popes, and then it'll be the end of time, but not the end of the world."
What you talk about, I mean, when I sit here and listen to you, and if somebody off the street who doesn't know anything, do people ever look at you or say to you, "You're a kook, this is awfully heavy, this is like something out of a sci-fi thriller that you're talking about"? Do you ever get that kind of response? And if you do, how do you respond to that?
To be honest with you, I've done some television talk shows, but I'm thinking of a radio talk show that I did in New Zealand years ago, and it was a defrocked priest who was interviewing me. It was the most popular show in New Zealand.
Right.
It was like a 4-hour show. And every time I started to talk about the warning or the chastisement or even hell, he'd cut me off. And with commercials. I mean, he had tons and tons and tons of commercials. When I first arrived on this show, I said, "How much time will I have to talk so I can kind of pace myself?"
Right.
And he said, "Well," he said, "about an hour, because I have some other things planned for the other 3 hours." Well, at the end of the hour, this priest, the frock priest, said to me, "The board is full, the board is full, the board is full." And I didn't know what he was talking about, the board
Phone
full.
calls, yeah.
Because I didn't understand that expression. And so I said, "Well, I guess I better leave now." And he said, "Can you stay some more?" And I said, "Okay." I ended up staying the whole 3 hours more. But every time I managed to get the message out about the warning and the chastisement, because people drew it out of me.
That's amazing. You also were on another show with one of the visionaries, and you had something unusual happen. You were telling us about it upstairs before we were
Yes,
taping.
in fact, it was the first time I was on television here in Louisiana. They wanted me to be on TV, and I was going to be given lectures. And they were going to show the show, but it was going to be videotaped.
Right.
And so Loli was living with me at the time, and she was with me. And she absolutely wouldn't go on to television. And I said, I persisted. And I said, "Look, you don't have to say anything. I'll just do all the talking, and you just give the message." And so I finally convinced her. The interview went well. Everything went wonderful. And then the man who interviewed me, said to Loli, "Excuse me, wasn't there a message? What did the Blessed Mother say?" And so she come out and she gave the message. We must make many sacrifices. We must do a lot of penance. We must make many visits to the Holy Sacrament. But first of all, we must be very good. She was saying all this in Spanish. And the cup is getting full, and if we do not change, a very great chastisement
Right.
will come upon all humanity.
Right.
So they were very happy. The show concluded, and we got up saying our goodbyes, and the guy said, just a minute. He said, I just feel like I want to check the tape and make sure that everything went okay. And when he checked the tape, my interview was fine. But when she spoke,
Nothing.
nothing. They could see her, but they couldn't hear her. And he said, do you mind very much if we do this again, just this part? So we did. But this time, when he asked her that question, wasn't there a message? What did the Blessed Mother say? She started out with, the Blessed Mother said.
And she didn't do that the first time.
She didn't do that the first time, and I wasn't
Paying
aware
attention,
of this until we got outside.
But this one, the
And
tape
then
was
she
perfect.
told me, and this one was perfect.
Let me ask you, what was it like living with her, having her live with you?
Like she was my daughter.
Did you feel a special presence there, or?
I told her in the first place, in the beginning, you know, I'm saying things I don't normally tell people.
Yeah.
I don't know how that slipped out, but anyway, when she came to live with me in 1972, I said, you're not coming here as a visionary, you're coming as a daughter.
Right.
And you're going to be treated just like if you were my own daughter, not like a visionary.
Are you a nice mom?
I was a nice mom up until a certain point when she broke the rule, went out on a date, and she came home 45 minutes late.
Oh, gosh.
This is what the guy she married.
That's good to know.
She had a deadline.
What'd you do?
What she did, they went to a play.
Yeah.
And some reason or another, neither one of them liked this play, and they sat through it because the tickets were so expensive.
Right, right.
And by the time they got out, because it was kind of far from where I lived, he brought her home 45 minutes late. I was so angry. Oof. Oh, I was scared because she had a deadline. She had to be in the house at a certain time.
What did you do to her?
What did I do? The first thing I did was him. I said to him, because he used to come only on weekends.
Yeah. And how old were they at the time?
She was, and they were in their 20s.
Okay, okay.
Early 20s.
Oh, so they were young adults.
But anyway, he only used to come on weekends, pick her up 7 o'clock in the morning, and then bring her home. I forget what the deadline was, if it was midnight, I think probably. You know, like Cinderella.
Yeah.
And I felt he was a very, very good boy, young man. I really did. Well, when she didn't come home, like he always used to bring her home on time,
Right.
I was worried. I sent my husband out looking around. I didn't know where to look, maybe fast food places or something. And finally, when they came in, you know, I'm not a person that gets angry very easily or upset. I think I'm a patient person. And when he brought her to the door, the first thing I said, because the next day he was supposed to come and get her again, was Sunday. I said, don't bother to show up here tomorrow.
She's grounded.
I don't want to see your face. I told him that. And after I shut the door, she started crying. I didn't want to hear any excuses. I said, you could have called me up if you were going to be late. You could have let me know so I wouldn't be worried. After all, yes, you're in a strange country.
Right.
You don't even speak English. And you know, she's crying and crying and crying. She must have cried herself to sleep. And the next morning, he didn't come and get her. But I forgot that the following day was a holiday, Monday. And so sure enough, he showed up on the holiday, 7 o'clock in the morning.
What did he say to you?
He was okay, but by that time I had cooled off.
Right.
I understood that after I heard her story.
Yeah.
But the next day, when I sat her down, I said, we're not going to have any of this. And I said, not at all. And these are the rules. She was, what, 20, something like that, 22, something like that. These are the rules here.
Boy.
And Oh, yeah. That's absolutely, I mean, that's the way it was with my own son. She was very special to me.
Yeah.
And she did do things that showed me what a humble person this girl was.
So she was a great role model for you as well.
She was. She said a lot of things that I knew how to be inspired and touched by God, and in the way that she said it, and yet her values were so wonderful.
And that was a great gift for you then to have her there.
It was a great gift.
Oh, it was an enormous
gift, and I try to figure out how come me and all this, but I really think it was because the Blessed Mother knew I wasn't going to treat her like a visionary.
Yeah.
You know, that I was just going to treat her like a normal person.
Like a mother would.
Yeah.
That's great.
And she married this guy. She was the only
that's
guy
good. That's the good news.
in this country that she ever went out with.
Oh, okay.
And he was just nuts about her. He's still nuts about her. And he is, let me tell you, Mary, though, he's the saint of the family.
I'll bet, having to deal with all that.
He's the saint of the family.
I was showing you my Garanbandal necklace that my friend Noreen Von Swell gave me, but you have an unusual one on as well that looks like a rosary.
This is Mary Lowley's first communion rosary beads that were kissed by the Blessed Mother. And at all my lectures, everyone has an opportunity to kiss the rosary. Our Blessed Mother promised, with the things that she kissed, that all those who wear them with faith and confidence will do their purgatory on earth, the purgatory they would do ordinarily after death.
Well, lucky you.
Yeah, I'd rather do it here than someplace else. When I die, I want to go straight up.
Yeah.
But she also made another promise that Jesus will do great miracles, wonders, and prodigies by means of her kiss.
People would often place holy objects, such as rosaries, scapulars, medals, and wedding rings on a table. The girls would then offer these to Our Lady for her to kiss. Afterwards, the girls would always return the object to their rightful owners, even though they had no way of knowing to whom each object had belonged. The Virgin told the children, "Through my kiss on these objects, my son will perform miracles, wonders, and prodigies." This promise has been fulfilled in numerous reported spiritual and physical cures from around the world.
And she asked that her kisses be distributed to the people. She kissed many holy things, and we do distribute her kisses.
Where do you get those?
Anyone that comes to my lecture will get it.
Okay.
Also, we mail out one little plastic round medallion that has the kiss on it as well, and it says, "Kissed by Our Lady of Garabandal." There have been so many healings, physical, mental, spiritual. I can't even begin to tell you. And,
you have a place there? Do you have a place there?
No.
A lot of people are buying places there. They want to be there for the great miracle.
Right, but there's a moratorium going on right now in the building. Yeah.
Oh, okay. They don't want to change the nature of it.
Oh, yeah. Because they've paved the streets now, they widen that road, and right now we're in the process of building a road that I call the Road of Mercy. It's not the original road. That's going to stay the way it was, full of rocks and everything. I'm talking about from the village now to the Pines. But on the other side of the village, that's a whole story on itself. We don't have time to talk about it. But there's a little bit about it in the vigil. Somebody died and left $10,000. And I didn't know what to do with this money. And I had a broken foot. Remember when I came here? I was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And somebody called me up a month before I was supposed to take my group to Garabandal. And I wondered, now what is this money for? Nobody ever died and left us $10,000. This was a first. And thank God I had the common sense to ask, why would God allow this? There must be something special the Blessed Mother wants me to do with this money. So when I went to Garabandal, first of all, they had finished paving the roads in the village. The day before I got there, I rented an electric wheelchair while I was there. I got it from the city. But on that day that a lot of people thought the miracle was going to happen, it had been on front page news in Belgium, in Holland, on television. They were all saying that the miracle was going to happen that Thursday.
Where'd they get that idea?
Don't ask me. People get mixed up. This has happened. This happened in 1995 too.
Right.
And the place was crawling with reporters and television cameras. And the press was there, and the radio people were walking around with the microphone, and I'm sitting in the wheelchair when I saw them all coming. It was a terrible day. It was raining, it was cold, and I went out there, and I tried to talk to them. I said, "What are you people doing here?" "Oh, for the miracle, the miracle."
You burst their bubble.
I said, "The miracle is not going to happen. The warning hasn't happened." You know, they wouldn't listen to me. I might as well talk to the wall.
Well, what did they report the next day, though?
They wouldn't listen to me at all. And this guy come over to me, and he says, "You're a woman with no faith." He said, "I'm going up to the Pines." It was 8 o'clock then. "I'm going to be up there for the miracle at 8:30. I said, "Oh, yeah? You come back and see me at 9 o'clock. Of course, he didn't come back. But a lot of people went away disappointed. But this is the thing, Mary Lou, there were a lot of sick people there.
Yeah.
People who couldn't walk.
Right.
Real sick people. And I looked at them, and I said, they could not get up to the Pines. And I looked at them, and I said, "Oh, my Lord, I know what I have to do with that money. I have to build a road."
The Pines is what? Where the
It's
visions...
high up on
But the significance of the Pines is where the kids were brought to see her?
They were there a lot.
Yeah.
But our Blessed Mother also asked for a small oratory in honor of Michael the Archangel to be built there.
Okay.
And you'll be able to see the miracle up over the area of the Pines. Okay. The Pines is a very important area. She appeared in that cluster of 9 pine trees. We talked about that. The importance of the angel in the last talk. But the point was, I realized then, it was like all of a sudden a light bulb went off in my head. How are the people going to get up to the Pines? The sick people. Do you know how many sick people are going to be coming in?
So you're going to pave their road then, huh?
So that road is going to, the original road from the village to the Pines, it's all rocky. That's not going to change. That's going to stay like it is. It's very difficult, even for an ordinary person. But on the other end of the village, I talked to the mayor, who happens to be Jacinta's brother, and Michelangelo, and I said, "Let's do the road." I got $10,000. He said, "It's going to cost $60,000. That's what he told me. And I said, "Well, all I know is the Blessed Mother wants this road. Let's get started on it." And from then on, you can't imagine the miracles that have happened. It's incredible. The road is going to be going from the end of the village up. It's
How long is that road?
It's going to be a one-lane road. And when you get to the top, there's going to be a circle there. There'll be no parking, no parking there. But they'll be able to drop off the handicapped people. And there's going to be a walkway from that point to the Pine Grove. And I'm really thrilled about all this.
That's fabulous. Let me ask you about
And it's going to be finished by the time I take my group there in April. I'm taking 95 people.
Wow.
I take them every year for 2 weeks. It's a retreat for us.
Are the Pines unusual for that area?
Those particular pine trees they never grew anywhere else.
Well, how'd they get there?
They were planted there by Conchita's grandfather and a group of small, little first communicants.
Wow.
And there were other trees that they planted there as well, but they died. These were the only trees that survived, these 9 pine trees. 9 choirs of angels.
9 choirs of angels, okay.
There were many times when Michael the Archangel brought communion to the children up there.
Right.
And by the way, I said before, angels can't consecrate. Where did he get the consecrated hosts? From the tabernacles of the earth.
Okay.
That's where he took them. I got to tell you a funny story, though. When Loli was 6 years old, something around that age, her job was to chop wood, because they used to cook with wood, everything, you know. And with this axe, she chopped off the tip of her index finger, this much of it, and on her left hand. Well, during the time of the apparitions, they were pestering, all 4 girls were pestering the Blessed Mother, do a miracle, so everybody will believe, do a miracle. And the Blessed Mother promised that there would be a miracle in time. And so Loli is holding up her finger. I know what you can do for a miracle. Give me back my finger, and then everybody will see that it was a miracle. Which was really very amusing. But to a 12-year-old girl who was saying something like this, there were a lot of tender moments during the time of the apparitions.
Mercedes Salisax, a writer of Barcelona, was distressed by the death of her 21-year-old son, Michael, in a car accident. She went to the village in the hope of finding some explanation and comfort.
Because he was a very good person. He was used to communion every day. And he was extraordinary, very, very, very religious. He had his scapulary. Of course, he was a very good boy. But still, I wanted to know where he was. I didn't know why. I didn't know. I want to know. And when they told me about Garanbandal, I went there just to ask what happened to my son.
Mercedes arrived at Garanbandal on Holy Thursday night and asked Marie Loli and Jacinta to ask the Virgin where her son was. On Good Friday and Holy Saturday, the girls completely ignored her. She was becoming desperate.
And this Saturday night, we were praying the Rosary, the whole village, during the village, through the village. We were praying. And it was more than 1 o'clock in the morning. It was Sunday. And one of the ladies who were with me said to Loli, who was in her side, you know something about this poor lady that is so suffering so much? And she said, yes. And you can tell her, I can tell her on Sunday. But we are in Sunday. She said, oh, you're right. So you go and tell her, because she's suffering too much. And I remember that Loli came running from me, and she said to me, the Virgin said that your son is in heaven. So I took Loli, I embraced her, and I was the most happy girl in the person in the world, because, and then we finished the Rosary together. And I asked her, I don't remember if I asked her the same day or the next day, what did she, how it happened, and what did you say about me? But I didn't finish the name Miguel. I said he said, oh, the Virgin said that Miguel is in heaven. And she said, she promised me so. And I said, and how do you know her name is Miguel? Because the Virgin told me. And why did she tell you? Because I asked her, who is Miguel? And she said, the son of this lady.
The Blessed Mother let them hold the baby Jesus in their arms. They'd pass him from one to the other. And when the priests asked them, well, what did he feel like? They expected the children to say, well, he felt like my baby brother.
Right.
But they didn't say that. Well, there was no weight to him at all.
Right is there, yeah.
There was no weight to him at all. And then the Blessed Mother starts kissing them on the cheek. I mean, this is a mother who, she's very fearful for us.
I guess she didn't get her finger back, though.
No, she didn't get her finger back. She didn't. But let me tell you another thing. There was a woman from the city that went there. She had had a baby. The baby was only a few months old, baby boy. But the boy was born, baby was born with some kind of a problem with his eyes. And he would never really see properly. And she came to the village with this baby, and she kept asking Loli, ask the Blessed Mother if they'd cure my son, the baby. And when Loli went into ecstasy, believe it or not, she took the baby from the mother's arms and held the baby up to the Blessed Mother with the sweetest look and says, to cure this baby. And then she returns the baby to the woman. Of course, Loli's not aware of people or anything.
Right.
She's really not aware, she's only doing what the Blessed Mother tells her told her to do. And right after the ecstasy, the woman wanted to know, what did the Blessed Mother say? Will she cure my son? And Loli said, yes. What else did she say? She said, well, go over to Conchita's house and she'll give you more information about it. And so that's what this lady did. Baby's going to be cured at the time of the miracle.
Oh, I see.
So in the meantime, this little baby grows up. He's about more than 40 years old now, right? This was in 1961. He's, what, 42, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it turns out that as he got older, the mother kept bringing him to doctors. And they decided they were going to do some surgery on him. I don't know how many surgeries they've done
For
on
what
this.
ailment, though?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a condition where the vision is not good.
Okay.
It's very bad.
All
It's
right.
very poor. I don't know if he's near blindness or
Right.
what. And so she goes back to the village after all these surgeries and everything. And Conchita said to her, I told you the surgeries weren't going to work. He's not going to be cured until the day of the miracle. Because that's what the Blessed Mother said, that he would be cured on the day of the miracle.
Okay. The miracle that's still up.
I had something special to tell you about Father Louis. Father Louis Andreu died the day on his way home.
Right.
Well, did you ever read the book or see the movie called Alive? About a group of rugby team of young men that were, their plane crashed in the Andes.
Right.
So, the meantime, all the mothers back home were all praying that these boys would be found alive.
Right.
And one of the mothers, somebody had returned from a trip, and when they opened up to empty the suitcase, they found a little medallion that had the little kiss of the Blessed Mother in it. And it said, Our Lady, in Spanish, Our Lady, kissed by Our Lady of Garabandal. Well, they didn't know who this Lady of Garabandal was, because they lived in Europe, I think it was Uruguay, if I'm not mistaken, or Paraguay, one of those countries. But the mother, two mothers, began praying to Our Lady of Garabandal that their sons would be found alive. Well, their sons were found alive. They never lost hope. Those two boys were two that were found alive. But when she was called and told that they had been rescued, and that she had to fly from her place to where the rescue point was, she was so nervous and scared, and she was on the plane, and she just was very hyper.
Sure, she was traumatized by what happened to her son.
That's right. And she saw this priest sitting in the plane, and he's reading an English newspaper. And she said, I think I'll go over and I'll talk to the priest and ask him to pray for me. And so she went over and she said, Father, she said, I'm one of the mothers of the boys that crashed in the Andes, and they called me to tell me that he's alive, and I'm awful scared. Will you pray for me? And she said, I've been praying to Our Lady of Garabandal. And he said, oh, I know about Garabandal. I saw the miracle. And he talked to her in Spanish.
Wow.
Perfect Spanish. But he's reading an English newspaper. Well, I'm telling you, it could only be one person
So it's an apparition of the priest then?
Father Lewis was on that plane. It was an apparition. It was a mystical thing.
Because when she got off, she didn't see him anymore, did she?
No.
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 Huh.
But he was, she didn't know who he was.
Right, no.
No. He said, oh, I know about Garabandal.
But I guess he probably
I saw the miracle. Well, I have made contact with someone that I met, and I wanted to go there myself and interview her and show her a whole bunch of pictures of different priests and see if she could single him out.
Right.
But she's very sure that she's not going to remember what he looked like. She could only remember that he spoke perfect Castilian Spanish and he was reading an English newspaper. Now, Father Lewis was a linguist.
Knew a lot of languages.
He knew a lot of languages. He was perfect in them. If you remember, after he died, he came to the 4 girls. They didn't see him, but he was teaching them how to say the Hail Mary in different languages. Greek, Latin, French, everything.
Why?
Because he was a linguist. And they would repeat the words in ecstasy as though they were following the instructions of the teacher.
Something? That is something. Amazing stories.
That we haven't even touched the...
Well, we're going to have to do it again next time.
Yeah. Oh, Mary Lou, thanks
that was wonderful.
so much
thank you
for
so much.
inviting me to come.
Thank
what
you.
A privilege
no, thank
to
you.
be here. And God willing, a lot of hearts will be touched.
Oh, absolutely.
Conchita, Marie Lolly, and Jacinta married Americans and now live in the United States. Marie Cruz also married and lives in Spain. On September the 12th, 1962, Marie Cruz had her last ecstasy, and in January of 1963, the visions also ended for Marie Lolly and Jacinta. Only Conchita continued to have visions, but they were fewer and further apart. The last apparition was on the 13th of November 1965. It was a special apparition during which our Blessed Mother kissed religious objects. Our Lady told Conchita, "I have come not only for your sake, I have come for the sake of all my children, with the desire of bringing them closer to our hearts." And afterwards she added, "Conchita, why don't you go often to visit my son in the Most Blessed Sacrament? Do not let yourself get carried away by laziness and not go and visit him who is waiting for you day and night."
Always remember, the warning, the miracle, and the permanent sign will herald a new era for mankind. For Garabandal is ultimately a message of love and hope. I'm Mary Lou McCall. God bless.
We hope that you have enjoyed the program you've just seen. We wish to reiterate that these are only private revelations. There is no claim that they are formally approved by the Church. They merit only the approbation given by you according to the merit of the character of the person. And therefore you are able to give whatever decision you wish and credibility you wish. Thank you very much. I'm Archbishop Hannon.
The messages of Garabandal are prophetic messages for the world, given to us to prepare us for their fulfillment. With this 2-part special, Garabandal, Then and Now, you too can witness the entire miraculous experience. See the actual footage from Garabandal, including the visionaries in never-before-seen ecstasy. This astounding video set is yours for just $35. Hear the entire story of Garabandal from an actual eyewitness, Maria Sirocco,
Nothing is a coincidence. That should say something to people.
who was so inspired by Garabandal that it changed the entire course of her life. She explains why the messages are even more relevant and urgent today, given the current state of the world and the church. This video also includes rare, actual footage of the miracles of Garabandal. You can own the entire collection, Garabandal Now and Then, and Eyewitness Garabandal for just $50. Remember, these videos have been produced for you, so you can judge for yourself the importance and relevance for your life and for the world.
To order a copy of this show or any other Focus production, call 504-840-9898 or 985-635-0333 or visit us on the web at FocusTVOnline.com. Focus would like to thank you for your kind donations. Your gifts and generosity make an immediate difference in the lives of many through these Focus programs. It's your contributions, however small, that make this show possible.